As artificial intelligence continues to evolve at a rapid pace, it is raising big questions about the future of work and how industries will adapt. From automation to augmentation, AI is already reshaping the way businesses operate and how employees approach their roles. But while some fear job displacement, others see new opportunities for innovation and growth. Vasant Dhar is a professor at NYU. He's been on before. He's also the author of Thinking with Machines. We say good morning to you, Vasant.
Morning, Ken. It's been a while. Last time I was on, my book had just come out. And that's been more than four
Yes,
months
how's
now.
it doing, by the way?
It's doing great. Got great reviews. People love it. So all good. All good.
Fantastic. But this topic, it seems that we can't go a day without another story regarding AI. So you wrote the book at the right time. How would you describe the current impact now with AI on the workforce? Because I know that like a year ago, some were saying, well, we don't want it at our office at all. Then others said, well, in certain aspects. Now there are offices demanding the use of AI with employees. So it's really evolving, isn't it?
It is. It is. But Ken, we're still in the early innings here. Like, not much has happened at the enterprise at the business level. It's had a huge impact on individuals, and how they use it. Like everyone uses it. You probably use it at home. I use it.
Yes.
Everyone I know uses it. But businesses have been a little slower to adopt it for a number of reasons.
Yeah. Well, I think, we had on a woman who does compliance uh, in HR and whatnot, a friend of mine, Evie Wenting, she's a paralegal. She was on yesterday and she was talking about how you have to set parameters and rules from a legal perspective at businesses. So you can, for instance, which AIs you're going to use, for what purpose, to what extent, who double checks, et cetera. So as long as you set those parameters, it's okay. And different states now have different laws about it. So that even complicates things more. The question is here is how real is the concern about job loss versus the potential for job creation? Is it that we'll have to find new jobs or that eventually AI is going to replace us all?
Those concerns are really very real, Ken, because it will replace a lot of, what I call low stakes cognition kinds of jobs, where people are massaging information, passing it along. Those jobs really are a threat. And that's what we've seen so far. Layoffs have been, of those kinds of job categories. On the other hand, it provides huge potential to people. I mean, we've never had this kind of technology before, like an oracle on your fingertips. So it enables us to just sort of leverage ourselves, and get so much, more output, better, more and better quality output. So it has both of those, potentials, and it will displace a lot of people. It will displace a lot of sort of low stakes cognitive work, but it'll also raise the expectations from, people. And that's, what technology has always done. It always sort of raises the expectation. You'll be sort of expected to do more because you can be so much more productive.
Vasant, it's funny you say that. And when you when you say low stakes jobs, this one because I was a TV news anchor. No, for real, I was a TV news anchor at Channel 7 in New York for 20 years, and I'm looking at my friends in the industry. CBS just cut back like 40% of its staff.
Yeah.
ABC, I know, had cutbacks, and NBC had cutbacks. And I know that there's a private company that owns stations like Channel 11, Nexstar. They just laid off literally half their anchor staff, and it's because exactly what you said. Number one, people are just getting more information from their phones, and number two, that the solo anchor can do the job that the two anchors did. I mean, years ago they had the male and the female anchor. It was meant to complement, society, et cetera, mix it all up. Now it's people are not sitting down necessarily and watching television news. They could just check their phones, or even better yet, ask their phones, "Hey Google, what's the temperature right now?" and get an answer. So why should I bother hiring somebody to tell me?
Exactly. No one is immune, by the way. You and I are actually susceptible to this as well. I mean, I wrote a piece in Psychology Today the other day called, Are You Obsolete? Where I was asking myself the question, am I obsolete even as a professor? Because the AI can do so much more. It can do so much of what I used to. So it requires sort of changing the balance of, how I teach now, just bringing more of my strengths to the table and saying, that stuff, go ask ChatGPT. It'll give you a better answer than I can. Um, but you're
We
absolutely
had
right.
we had I was
Sorry.
going to say, I'm sorry, we had a therapist on about a month ago, and she said that there are so many apps now that are AI therapists. And I thought to myself, Good Lord. But that opens the possibility of AI giving bad advice. Like there were several instances of teens who became close to AI bots, and they ended up being persuaded to kill themselves. And kids don't get it. They don't understand. And they in this case, it was like a world of fantasy where this kid kind of fell in love with this AI like it was a real life human being, and it clearly was just a computer. But
Yeah.
it urged the child to take his life. So this is where we have to be concerned, right? And people really need to keep an eye on AI, as you mentioned. This is just the
Indeed, yeah.
evolutionary, the early stages.
Absolutely, and this is a big question for policymakers, right? That should AI have any obligations, right? Mental health, that's a great example. Tragic cases of those two teens who killed themselves.
Mhm.
Why? Well, because the AI doesn't really have any feelings. That's a kind of job where you require someone who has feelings, who can feel for you and understand you. AI doesn't. So in those areas, it's particularly risky. And that's exactly the kind of thing we need to figure out. Should there be any obligations that the AI should have in certain areas of activity like humans do? In finance, professionals have fiduciary responsibility. In healthcare, they have a duty of care. The AI has no such things at the moment. So there's no guardrails, and it's sort of really Wild West. So these are the kinds of things that we really need to get our heads around before it runs away from us.
Don't think I didn't just hear you say at the moment. So do you think it's possible that AI can evolve to at least have a computer version of feelings by equating if-thens? So like if I do this, then the person feels bad. If I do this, then the person feels good, to kind of create an artificial sense of feelings?
Well, there's a difference between a simulation of something and the real thing, right? And you're touching on something really deep, which is like, when does it matter? Like, does it matter that the
Mhm.
machine truly sort of understands things the way we do? Or is it okay if it's a simulation of it? Now, I would argue that in many cases, the simulation is just fine. If it's helping you with something in finance, it doesn't matter whether it feels or thinks about it the same way that you do, as long as it gives you the right answers and it's useful. But when it comes to like mental health, I think the real thing really matters. It's not good enough to sort of simulate feelings, so yeah, there's a difference between those two areas, and there's some areas where feelings really matter, and I don't think we should be letting AI loose in those areas of our lives.
No, I agree. And it's frightening that too many people are using it way too often. And by the way, I'm constantly getting mistakes, big mistakes, when I try to fact check things with AI. I recently checked to see the years that President Obama was president, and
Yeah.
AI. This was Gemini. This was Google Gemini. It wasn't some nondescript AI, and it responded that President Obama hadn't been president of the United States. So obviously, whatever source it was going to was not a reliable one. But this is where we have to be very careful with AI and make sure that we treat it as a tool and not as the end all be all. What's a website for people to find your book, Vasant?
Well, it's thinkingwithmachinesbook.com. Or just go to Amazon, and yeah, Thinking with Machines, easily available. Yeah, that's it. That's it right there.
Make sure I get my friend a plug right there. All right, Vasant Dhar, professor at NYU, author of Thinking with Machines. We love when you come on. Come back more often, please.